Heads up for this episode, at about 15 minutes, the audio drops to the camera's microphone, so the quality's a little less. I let him finish his thought, and then it goes back to the regular audio. This podcast is garbage, and number two, this format, and
Had a little update in the meantime.
and a little update, yeah. So we got a table,
A
so
table.
it's like legit. I'm just checking audio levels. Looks like it's recording.
Got some new background set up.
New background. It's been a while, over a month.
Well, this whole office has been a work in progress for over a year.
There's a lot of work in progress over the last year. Everything's a work in progress. Everything we're doing has been a work in progress.
Yeah.
But we'll do this one. Cue intro that we don't have music, and can do that.
You got some music.
Boom, go. Take it away.
Well, so this is our first podcast after probably, I don't know, a 6-week break.
It's been too long. I would like to do one every week or every other week. But with the holidays and work in progress projects and then snow.
That's leading us into our biggest issue.
Snow is a big one. So you had some starting points you wanted to
Well, yeah,
lay the foundation.
Yeah, so we haven't done a podcast in 6 weeks, and we had holiday trash, which we knew we weren't going to podcast over holiday trash because that screws everything up. And the holiday fell on Monday, so that really screws the week up.
Yeah, 2 Mondays in a row.
2 Mondays in a row,
Yeah.
so Christmas and then New Year's Day, Monday. You got to push everything back a day, not fun. And then combined with the extras, that was difficult. And we got some snow during that time, too.
I hate the snow more than... I mean, kids love the snow. Garbage men don't.
Yeah.
And I would say the snow was more of an issue than the
snow was
holidays.
great when you were a kid.
Yeah.
I was talking to my snow removal guy, and we were talking about how much fun it was when we were kids, and now it's not fun anymore.
Right. Well, like going into the holidays, I was thinking, oh man, I hate the holidays for garbage schedules. And then we got hit with the snow, and I was like, I think holidays I could have tolerated.
Yeah, I was ready for the
I
holiday
coulda done-
schedule. I knew that was coming, but I didn't know the snow was coming.
The snow was dumb.
So we got a little bit of snow during our holiday schedule, so that would have been Christmas, New Year's week, and then the week after,
Little bit. I'm gonna cue in visuals of what little bit of snow looks
we
like.
got a little bit of snow.
Cut in video.
And
So
it-
if you're listening on Spotify, go to YouTube and see what I spliced in.
And there was extras, and that's just a difficult couple weeks. So you always look forward to the weeks following Christmas and New Year's because it usually lightens up and it's sort of easy routes.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. We got 2 snowstorms across about a week.
Yep.
And each storm brought probably 12 inches. So we got 20-ish total.
Yeah. It was hard to tell with the drifting.
Yeah. Well, the first storm was a wet snow.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a colder, lighter snow towards the end of it. And then the wind blew for both of these storms.
A little bit of a breeze. 40-mile-per-hour breeze.
40 miles an hour, yeah.
Yep.
So they plowed everything open and then it blew shut. So it was,
They brought in those out-of-state snow blowers.
yeah.
I sent you an image of what those look like.
Yep.
Gnarly machines. Kind of sucks when you have a situation that requires them.
No, they dusted off the heavy equipment for moving snow.
Oh, yeah.
The big V plows on the
Yeah.
road
Yeah.
graders and stuff.
No, this was legit state of emergency.
I don't know if I've ever seen the V plows on the graders.
Oh,
I've
really?
seen them sit in state yards. And
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I've seen them before.
Every grader had a V plow on it that was out after
It's
this last storm.
Yeah. It got stupid.
So I guess enough about the storm, and obviously we had a lot of snow to deal with. But what this kind of brings me to is, and what I reflect on. So the thing about garbage is you have to go out every day, and if you don't go out, it just piles up.
Yep.
So that makes it a little unique, and then that's what most of the time garbage isn't terribly challenging to the everyday problems. But when you get a snowstorm and then your route's the same length, and you've got to navigate say 10, 20 inches of snow.
Yeah.
All these little problems that you just brush off during the day become very big problems.
And then you're trying to troubleshoot the problems on the fly, and people want to know what your solutions are while you're still figuring them out.
Yeah.
Where it's hey, you running today? And it's well, yes. Are we going to get to every neighborhood? We'd like to, but
What my brother told me was, because I asked him what their garbage pickup was like in Omaha, and I go, what's the plan? And he goes, well, there really is no plan.
yeah,
That's the best thing you could tell a customer. We're going to wake up tomorrow And there's no plan, but we'll
Yeah.
probably start trucks and see what happens.
Yeah, pretty much. Because it's like, how did the wind blow? How did the snow plows push the snow?
Oh, and we had
Yeah.
negative temperatures too.
That didn't help.
I forgot about that. So
Yeah.
we had like sub-zero temperatures. Luckily, we didn't have any gelling issues. We were pretty prepared for it. But there were definitely routes. Like I didn't run one route one morning because, I mean, it was out of town, negative temperature. I couldn't even like get my hydraulics to correctly operate.
When I started up my pickup to drive into work, like because usually I'll drive in with like a van, minivan.
You're commuting about an hour.
Yeah,
50 minutes.
So I fired up the 4x4.
So what time's the 4x4 fired up?
Oh God, 3:15.
So that's
walk out
like cold period in the night.
Immediately as soon as I wake up, walk out, and I have it plugged in. Walk out, turn it on, go back in the house, do my routine to get ready for work. And I got in the truck. It said -15, and I remember being kind of terrified, even though I added the additive for the fuel. I was like, I really don't want this thing to gel up, because the Dodge County Sheriff or Platte County Sheriff, the different counties I drive through, were basically saying, don't go out. And if you do go out and get stuck, we can't be sure we'll get to you. Now, that was like the day prior, so I was kind of hoping things had opened up. But I was like, man, if I gel up at like 3:30 in the morning when I'm like in between places and I have to like stop, I bundled up as if I was ready to trek Antarctica. Layers and layers, coveralls, and then heavy winter coats over the coveralls. Ski mask, goggles, ready to go. So as soon as I gelled up, I could at least walk for 40 minutes before like we start having issues.
Well, I saw you when you showed up to work, and I was like, holy, this guy's like ready to like just use him doing snow removal.
Yeah, no, I was ready to walk. Because like I said, I put additive in my truck. But if it gelled up, because -15 is so cold.
I get it, though. I mean, if you've had something gel up, you always have that
mindset.
That mindset.
Yeah.
And unless you, like, physically hold the number one handle,
and
feel the all those gallons of number one going in the tank, you're never like that.
No, you need I've been in a garbage truck once that gelled up on a country highway early in the morning, and I remember, like, the ominous feeling of, like, being in the dark. Because I was going into like 40-mile-per-hour winds. And they say wind doesn't affect machinery. But I was like, I don't know. I was able to drive that thing for 20 minutes till I got out in the open. And then the truck just went, and I was like, well, that was weird. I was like, that can't be gelling up. And all of a sudden just do. Coast to the side of a highway, gets quiet, gets dark. And you can immediately feel the cold pushing in through a cab over. Because there's like no block.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, it's getting cold like within minutes. And you don't even want to open the door because all your residual heat in the cab will be gone. I immediately started making phone calls. I'm like, we got a problem. This is going to be bad.
Yeah, when you gel up, I mean, the idea is the filter waxes so then no more fuel can get through the filter. So the truck doesn't run and there's no starting it.
Nope.
I mean, the only way it's going to start is somebody comes out and changes your fuel filters.
And even then it's dicey. I think that time at a different company, they towed it to a shop just to thaw it out.
Yeah.
Because everything was frozen by that time. Yeah, it's so you have it happen to you once, and then every time you're in that scenario, you're bundled ready to be outside.
So we had sub-zero temperatures, wind, and then like 20 inches of snow.
Yeah.
So probably, I've been picking up garbage like full-time 6-7 years, and then I've done it since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Far worst winter I've ever been through.
Yeah, this was definitely, we're doing garbage.
I've done everything on its own, probably, like the cold temperatures, the wind.
Yeah.
Never that much snow.
Yeah.
And to have all three at once is...
Yeah, that's hard mode.
Yeah.
And the whole time, because we'll have phone calls while we're running our routes, both doing side load. And the whole time, you and I were both kind of like relishing the fact that our trucks were still running and the heat was on.
Yeah.
Because you can't appreciate that until you've had like prior experience with.
Yeah, I've had a truck gel. It's cold.
Yeah.
So we had the snowstorm, and what I was thinking about most is, like, over the past 5 years, we've changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
We went from, just trucks went out, we picked everything up, to actually, like, creating, like, what our service is, standardizing it, getting, customers to understand, like, how we're going to pick it up, what we need done, so that way it's, like, easy for us and, our employees to get the garbage picked up. But so like 2019 is kind of when this all started, because that's when we acquired another company and like actually like had employees then at that point.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, we were one truck. It was just kind of like Dad and I had a hired guy here and there. But the bad weather is when you identify your problems. Because your small problems become very large problems when the weather's bad.
Well, what was it I said to you the other day where I was on the phone and I was in a terrible mood, and I was like, I get incredibly critical of everything when it's cold.
You were here working on your truck.
That's what it was.
You had like the most trivial tasks to do, and like I said, our shop is like a work in progress, so we have like no tools here. Like
yeah.
There's so much stuff that's not done yet.
So any resistance when it's cold, it's like if I don't have to do it, I'm not gonna.
Well, yeah, you like called up and were ready to like order like the shop like tools or whatever.
Yeah.
But I get it. Like you pull in here, you've been doing what you're doing, and there's like not a screwdriver. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was part of the issue. Like I did the bare minimum, and
is this somebody's fault? Because I need to get yelled at if it's somebody's fault.
No, I like it was. Like I said, I just get really critical of everything. It's like if we're not equipped for something and it's cold, then that little bit of resistance means, well, I guess we're not doing it today. As opposed to like if it was like July and the doors are open, and you're like, hey, we don't have tools.
Oh, yeah, I'll just go run over to the other shop.
I'll go to the other shop, and I'll walk around there, kill time,
Yeah.
T-shirt weather. But it was like, you know what? If we're not getting stuff done, I'm going home where it's warm.
So I've got two weather events where, like, I would say they were pivotal.
Yeah.
And there's always a combination. You always have bad weather, and then you're short-staffed.
Yeah.
That's another big one. When you're short-staffed, that's when you identify your problems, too.
Yeah.
So I would say it was probably 4 years ago
Yeah.
when it was the fall time. We were short-staffed, and somebody didn't show up, and I had to run a Tuesday route by myself with a rear loader, and it was pouring rain. Like 19 to 20, 20 to 21, we got like crazy rain around here. We had flooding even one year.
19 was the flood. Yeah.
So, use your imagination. People set their garbage out, and then it rains an inch. Like, it's just soaked. So I'm out there doing this route by myself, and, I just pull up to different stops, and you get a couple bad ones in a row, and you're just lifting waterlogged cans, So the can's twice as heavy because it's full of water, and then they got cardboard on the ground, and cardboard
hold on.
like
you're doing this motion. You're lifting personal cans.
Yeah. Not
so. This isn't a rear load with a toter tipper, and I know like this podcast is primarily listened to by other guys in the industry, so they'll know like rear loader and tipper terms.
Yeah, rear loading personal cans.
But like if some casual not in the industry, I want to lay this down so they understand what this motion means, because you did it, and it's like, to me it's like, this is huge. So a rear load usually has a tipper on the back where you can roll up a trash cart, and it grabs it and tips it into the back.
Yep.
Saves your...
And it has an attached lid that, to the average person is pretty obvious that you keep it closed during the rain.
Right, but you were doing this before all your customers had carts, which means it's like, sure, set out your Rubbermaid container and I'll tip it. So if you're doing this all day in the rain...
Crazy.
Water, and you're like... I don't want to go too far down this tangent, but it drives me nuts. There's some viral video where this mom got upset with the garbage man because the garbage man said, we didn't tip your trash because it was too heavy. We have a policy about too much weight.
Right.
And the viral clip framed it as in, like, look at this mom show these guys how to do the work because she's going to tip the trash for them. Because this housewife can do the job that these garbage men said they won't do. You see her, like, struggle to drag it. And then she does this thing, which is like hernia inducing, to like roll it up her hips and try to tip it in the back. I'm like, that's why. Yes, she did it once. Now have her do it the next 300 times and then measure if that's a really good idea.
So I used to get, it used to hurt my back. That was one of my problems. So like that particular day, I think I hurt my back.
Sure.
Just because of like loading so much, like so many overloaded cans.
Yeah, water
and stuff.
Wet garbage.
And like you don't hurt your back on like tipping one, tipping
two.
But it's after like 4 days of rain and tipping cans, and you're by yourself and you're getting in and out of a truck. So that's when I just like snapped. I snapped, and I'm like, everybody's getting a cart. Everybody's getting a cart.
That's your break point.
That was my breaking point.
Yeah.
I was by myself in the rain,
Yep.
grabbing garbage by hand.
Yep.
And I'm like, if I don't enjoy doing this job, how am I going to find somebody that's going to do it? Like that's what was going through my head more than like what was going through my head was it's like I'm out here by myself because I don't have somebody that will do this. What is it going to take to get somebody to do this? And then I look at the work I'm doing, and it's like, what am I advertising for this position? I think I was advertising sub 20, no benefits. Yeah. And I was like, honestly, at sub 20, no benefits, I don't think I would do this job. I think I know why I'm out here by myself, because nobody wants to do this.
And if someone griped like, oh, I don't want to do that job, you're not going to be like, oh, it's because you're a sissy. You're going to be like, no, I get it.
No, I get it.
I get it.
After doing it, I don't think anybody would really want to do this.
All right, so we had an amateur mistake with the SD card getting full, but we're rolling.
It.
Yeah, we'll
rolling now.
We'll fix it in post. I think that's the expression.
We good?
We're good.
Okay, so we've been getting more like these ice storms, and we got one the year after I did kind of the all carts. And I didn't get everybody a cart by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I kind of prioritized who needed carts worse than others, and obviously some customers want to take them. But I got quite a few carts out, so we were like moving in the right direction. And that following winter, same thing. I could not find guys, talking to people within eastern Nebraska. I'm pretty aware that, like, I'm not paying enough to get the talent that, I want. And it was that following winter, we got this ice storm. And to me, that's the most treacherous weather event to go out in, is when everything's just blanketed in ice. Because it's slick, you can't stop. I mean, when you're jumping on and off trucks, getting in and out of cabs. And that winter, I had a guy that fell. And luckily, he didn't get hurt too bad.
Yeah.
But he got banged up for a couple days.
Yeah.
And that was at the time when I had Nate in my ear telling me to order a side loader. He's like, you got to order a side loader. Like, if you want to pay guys more, you got to get side loaders because you got to get more efficient with your operation. Yeah. And I was like, okay, but nobody in Columbus is going to go for a side loader. Like, have you seen garbage over here? Everybody just, like, flings it out their door. Like, nobody uses carts. Like, we have such issue with just getting people to use the carts we give them, let alone if they have to set them out correctly and get everything in them and come along to grab them.
That's a podcast episode in itself.
But just briefly, I mean,
sure. No, go ahead.
That's what I was wrestling with. That's why, like, the day he told me, well, if you buy a side loader, you can pay guys $25-30 an hour with benefits. I didn't order one because it's like, well, I don't know if a side loader is going to work in Columbus.
Well, it's almost, and this could be a whole different episode too. Like, you say, oh, get carts and get a truck. These aren't trivial purchases.
No, it took me, just sourcing carts, getting carts out took me 6 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
That wasn't like everybody gets a cart.
No, and there's strategy to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you're calculating the return on investment, right? It's not like, well,
I would say there was no ROI about it. All it was we have to get this more manageable. Like, when I go out by myself because somebody doesn't show up, I have to be able to get all these stops picked up.
And that's kind of when I say ROI, I kind of use that in an obtuse way, like it's broad. And you hear ROI from a finance term where you're looking at it in a spreadsheet sense. But the ROI for me is like, the routes will actually get done, completed, in no matter the conditions. And that's one thing that's hard to calculate, but you appreciate it when you have your next rain,
I remember my next rain. So obviously I went out on that rain, like, kind of hurt my back. I remember the following time it rained and I did that route and I had carts on that route. Oh, it was when you show up to a stop that you normally would just kill yourself at, and I'm like,
but that's
exaggerating, kill yourself. But when you show up to a house that has a cart instead of 2 like waterlogged cans, you're just there, like, tipping the cart like a breeze.
I know, but the thing is it's hard to calculate the ROI for the injury that doesn't get absorbed.
The most expensive things you're not calculating.
Exactly.
And then, and that's where I'm at with Patrick. So that's where I'm at with this employee that got injured.
Yeah.
So that was the following winter that this guy fell on the ice, and we were out on the ice. I was driving, he was riding. I'm out of the truck. He's out of the truck. We can't even stand up on the ice. It's so slick. And, we had a cart that we were tipping. It's not like we were loading stuff manually. But he went down on the ice, and that was the minute when I was like, this just isn't even sustainable.
Side load.
Side load.
Side load.
Side load. Guy fell on the ice.
Yep.
Side load was ordered the next week.
Yeah, because I've seen I'm so fortunately Ace hasn't had to pay out like a large injury, or go file an insurance claim for a large injury for an employee. But
Yep.
I've been at places where they had to do that, and I've been at other places where they try to hide those kind of injuries, where someone gets banged up, and it's just like, well, we'll do as much as we can with cash under the table
Yeah.
before we file a claim.
Well, it just takes me back to like, the bad weather brings out your weakness in your organization. There we are, we're on the ice, somebody falls, he's injured, he can't pick up. So you already can't hire anybody. We established that. We're down another guy. Potentially that guy's going to have to seek medical attention.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're just going backwards so fast. It's like, well, if 10%, if 15, if 20% of my customers say they don't want to put garbage in a cart so that way we can come around with an automatic truck, so be it. So be it. You're not going to be on the route.
I need to go back. There's a book called oh shoot, I forget what it's called. It's by this German military supply officer from like the 1800s. And his name's Klaus Fitz. And someone like Jocko Willink, and he's a popular podcaster, former Navy SEAL. He'll reference him. But what you're describing, if you looked at this from like sort of like a strategist point of view, is you're starting to recognize giant vulnerabilities that fortunately you don't have like an enemy that can like recognize vulnerabilities and exploit them. But you can see how like, man, like, oh yeah, we're cooking along, everything's fine in fair weather, but man, there's this huge hole that if it gets exploited, it kills you. Like you're floating on the edge and you don't even know it.
Well, but I felt like I was floating on the edge when I had to go out and do routes by myself.
Sure.
If I didn't get those done, no one was going to get them done. If routes don't get done, that's when people are going to leave your company. Because it's like, well, if you can't get the garbage picked up, I got to find somebody that can.
And there's a lot of operations out there right now, small operations, private ones that are operating that way, and they don't know how close to death that they are. The death of the company is.
Yeah.
And we've seen that. I won't go too far down that tangent, but I'm trying to like kind of throw things in that other people who are in the industry watching or listening can relate to and be like, oh yeah, maybe we need to start getting more analytical about what we're doing.
Well, and then going back to kind of where I've, reflecting on the past 5 years, I would say the biggest reason we didn't change was because we didn't think the customers would accept it.
Yeah, that's a big fear.
Like being scared of your customers is probably the worst thing you can do inside a company.
Right.
Like to not design your policy around how like you should be operating your company.
Yeah.
And to design policy around like what your customers are used to.
Yeah.
And what they think you should be doing. I mean,
and it's
not a sustainable model.
And that's something I've joked about in private conversation. And I say it like as a joke, but it isn't a trivial thing. It's like I'll say, well, hey, how about we get to decide how to run a company instead of the customer? Because I get a customer can be always right at a restaurant where they want their burger, how they want their burger cooked. But when it's like, hey, we have all the liability for injuries and incidents, maybe the customer shouldn't decide how the garbage gets picked up.
Yeah. When we tell you have to put your garbage in the cart, I mean, it's because we've been out on the ice and seen guys fall on the ice.
Yeah.
And if we have employees fall on the ice and, they get injured, we're not a very sustainable company.
And it always falls back to the common criticism that's easy to make when you're watching from a window. It's like, oh, you don't want to get out because you're lazy. And it's like, well, maybe, possibly. Maybe on Monday morning, I'm feeling a little lazy. But generally, no. It's hard to get injured when you're in a cab. All the injuries occur outside the cab.
Right. Well, and that's, again, like garbage, we have to go out every day. If we don't go out, we have twice as much to do the next day.
Yep.
So, yes, on a warm summer day when, it's,
Yeah.
you almost want to get out of the truck. It's
Yeah,
so nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can get out of the truck, but we can't be getting out of the truck when it snows 2 feet.
No.
So that's when it's kind of like you kind of just got to design policy that works in all events.
Yeah.
So, like, do we design our policy for warm summer days? No, we design our policy so that way when we get a 2-foot snow,
Yeah.
we're pressure tested. Like our operations will withhold 2 feet of snow. We'll get the routes done.
Yeah, because like, and I can cut away to this in the video format. Like in a 10-hour day, in the cab, it's very hard to be injured. Maybe I'll have to do some carpal tunnel exercises at some point, but there's more than one clip of me getting out to like move a cart or pick up trash that fell, and you'll see me like slip on the ice, because I was rolling a 360 camera, and it's like it was at 15 or 20 seconds. That's where I was going to get injured, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
So just numbers in I'd say 2020 we had a snow. I'm not sure on the year. We had a snow. It was probably 6 inches with some wind, and we had all rear load routes at the time. There was a guy that didn't show up. He was out of town. He couldn't make it, so I had to run a route by myself. There were 350 residential on it. It probably took me 8.5 hours to run, and at the end of those 350, I was done.
Yeah, it was cooked. Yeah.
So this last snowstorm, we had same situation. Guys were out of town. They couldn't come in, and I didn't want us to fall behind because the snow was just going to keep coming throughout the week. So I ran 1,000 stops in, I think, 14 hours.
Right. Yeah, that was huge.
Yep.
And when we say, so at the beginning of this podcast, I was talking about driving a 4x4, and it's like you couldn't make it in. It's like, no, literally, like I got a video from my personal cell phone. It looked like the ocean made of snow.
But you shouldn't come in. You shouldn't be on the roads because you're just going to get stuck and make a bigger mess out of the mess we're already in.
Yeah, and it wasn't like you like get high centered in the snow. It was literally a wall of snow.
Yeah.
Like it was up to the hood of the truck. It's like no matter how hard I could have tried, there's no getting through. I'll splice that in too.
But what I'm getting at is, so I did 8.5 hours for 350 stops. I was gassed at the end of that. I mean, I probably could have went for 14 hours and done 500 stops.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would have made it the next day.
Rear loading it.
Yeah, I couldn't rear load that.
Back
and even in the snow, like you can do a couple days in the snow rear loading.
Yeah.
You get weeks into snow, your body's toasted.
Yeah.
I ran 1,000 stops, 14 hours. My body not physically exhausted.
No, mentally you're wiped.
Mentally.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, if someone tells you to do be mentally focused on anything for 14 hours, at the end of it, you're kind of just you're tired and you don't know why. It's I didn't do much, but you did.
You're driving a 60,000-pound bus down residential roads that aren't cleared.
Yeah.
White knuckling.
Yeah, you're
grabbing carts.
I know someone's done the calculation for like the caloric burn of the brain, and I feel like yours is working a little bit harder on something like that because every cart you tip usually has some sort of obstacle to it.
But that's the underlying beauty of what happened. Like we went from this brute idea that, we take out these trucks where you get out and you load it all in the back. And you got like a cart tipper to no, we're going to bring on state-of-the-art robotic trucks that go around and they can rip carts out of snowbanks, grab them in places like if you had to do it manually and get them out, just that one cart would wipe you. So doing it for 1,000 would be impossible.
Yeah.
But what happened was we lowered the physical component and then we increased the mental component to it. Because now you are engaged full-time with that truck, driving it around, grabbing all the carts. I mean, mentally, it's just way more of a demanding task to drive this ASL. And it just lowers the amount of physical work it takes.
Yeah.
Which increases the amount of time you can do it, in my opinion.
And there's value in that, which we've discussed running a digital ad campaign because we do know our competitors struggled with that. An entirely rear load operation.
Horrible. Those guys are so underpaid.
I
couldn't believe what they did. I could not believe what they did.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if I make anything that sounds like a slight or criticism of our competitor, it's never about the employees because I've done those rear load stuff.
I've done the job too.
Yeah,
it's
and
so bad.
And it's like if you guys are getting paid like less than $25 an hour and no benefits, it's like you are being literally robbed. Yeah. And it's because they're worth so much more than that. So if those guys are out doing that labor, it's like brute. And if they get to a position where it's like, hey, we literally can't do that labor right now in these conditions, I'd be like, I totally understand. Like to drag out of drifts, because I'll have clips of like me picking snow or carts up out of snow drifts,
right?
And it's like to do that by hand and hundreds of times a day,
your joints just fatigue.
Oh,
and then you when you're in a foot of snow, you can't wear you got to wear like boots.
Yep.
Heavy, and typically the boots are heavy because you
Yep.
want something that goes up your leg a decent ways.
Yep.
And your knees just
It's always
over
the knees.
time, getting
Yeah.
in and out of the truck, jumping on and off of it, dragging stuff in and out, your joints are just
Yeah, and
annihilated.
it's hard to find the right boot that can be in and out of a truck and then in and out of snow, because there's some winter boots you might think, well, if I'm outside all day, it works okay with thick socks, but if you trench that snow back into the cab with you while it's on your boot and then it thaws,
Yep.
that water will penetrate, and then you jump back out in the snow and then it freezes, and all of a sudden your toes get frozen.
Well, to me, it's like weight versus protection.
Yeah.
Like the lightest
Yeah.
shoe offers the least amount of protection.
Yeah.
The biggest, heaviest insulated rubber knee-high boot
I
is so
know.
heavy you
Yeah.
can't operate
Yeah.
that around a truck.
No. It's hard to find the right one that can go in and out of a heated cab or up and down the truck, in and out of the snow, and have the weight that, doesn't tear up your knees.
So I guess the crux of all this is just I myself running a garbage company, the times when I've been like, we have to change what we're doing, we have to get better at it, we have to get more efficient, that's
Mhm.
all come in like the most adverse times of running the operation.
Yeah.
When the sun's shining, it's, a spring day, it's not too hot. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy just to be like, oh, it worked today, it'll work tomorrow.
Right.
But
'Cause-
when you get pressure tested with adverse weather like this, that's when you really identify what works and what doesn't work.
Because there'll be a time in May where we think, oh, maybe things are too easy, or maybe we can trim something, or or something. Because like everything's running so smooth and the hours are short. But it's like, no, there's a built-in flex room where if people get sick or go on vacation or inclement weather, we got wiggle room to cover that.
Yep.
And these last two storms, holidays are usually a test of it, but not terribly. But a storm is definitely where there's
It's a pressure test.
pressure test. Yeah. Whoa. Good times. Yeah, I'm hoping most of it's in the past, like now, for this year at least.
Yeah.
Because all that snow is already starting to melt, and it's looking gross.
Yeah, I was talking to this whole snowstorm. I've been talking to like Dad because he ran a garbage route for 30, 35 years,
Yeah.
and he's talking about the worst is these alleyways.
Yeah.
So we have alleys in Columbus, and they'll take and plow them like maybe 10 foot wide.
If that.
They plow about the width of like your truck. So when you pull the garbage truck in the alley, when you open the door, the snowbank is right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got 1.5 feet of snow, and then you got to walk through that to the back of the truck, and then your can's going to be in the snowbank because they plow the snow right up to the cans. So then you got to drag the can out of the snowbank, take it to the back of the truck, lift it, and then you got to throw it back, and then you got to go get back in the truck.
I was going over some of your clips that you had logged, and there were some where that was all in the alleyways, and you were driving by some of the competitors' cans that were rear load cans, and I was looking how they were drifted in, and I was like, "Ugh, that is not, even if you got a guy that's right in the back, because your dad was doing it where he was getting out at every stop,
Yeah.
but even if you got the guy in the back and the driver just has to drive it and watch the guy hop on and off.
From the perspective of a guy that's driven a rear load with a guy on the back, I think the worst job in garbage is driving a rear load where you don't get out of the cab.
Yeah.
So like where you just drive and then you like drive to every stop, put it in park, and then you just watch some poor guy on the back of the truck load everything, and you're like sitting in this heated cab and you're like, should I get out and help him?
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And it's like, well, if I get out and help him, it's going to probably end up taking us longer. But at
Yeah.
the same time, am I really going to watch this guy like destroy his body when like I'm an able-bodied person that could give him a hand?
Yeah.
Like that was the worst job, was driving the rear load truck with the guy on
Uh-huh.
the back. Because what I ended up doing was I almost got out at every stop and helped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if it's like, well, if I'm going to get out at every stop, I probably should just do it by myself.
Yep. Yeah.
And you see a lot of guys run rear load routes by themselves.
Around here, yeah. Like in those Facebook groups that we're in, there's definitely operations where there's a designated driver, and he'll not get out for anything.
And there's a couple times where I'll see a post where the lumper or swamper, whatever the term is for the guy on the back, will take a picture of the driver sitting in the cab and like throw some shade or kind of throw some insults at him. And you can tell, like, that's one thing, fortunately, I never had to really deal with if I was in that combo team where you hate the guy you're working with. That I never had happen, but I can definitely see it has happened with
Well, that's the worst. That's the worst part is you get paired with somebody and you got to ride around.
Oh, yeah. And then, And
like
then,
if you have to ride around with the same guy 5 days a week, 8 hours, so that's 40 hours, assuming no overtime.
and your work ethics.
I don't know if there's anybody I could ride in a truck with for 40 hours a week.
No, because you and
not
I
just want to like murder them at the end of 2 weeks.
Right, because you and I rode along when you first onboarded your side load.
Yep.
And even like
We rode together for 2 weeks, and at the end of that 2 weeks, we were.
Yeah, we didn't need to ride. I mean, we got along fine, but at the same time, we both had our preference where it's like I like to, because we like to listen to our own music or podcasts, because you can get into a flow state. Because when you're riding together, you definitely notice routes took longer.
Oh yeah.
Like, and granted, we were like still routing and setting things up, but it took longer. Just the conversation, I think, slows you down.
Well, you're just constantly distracting one another.
Yeah. Whereas, like, if you put in some music and you're just kind of repping through your route in that flow state, things get done.
Right.
Yeah, and it's always tricky to get taken out of it. Like when someone walks up to the truck to want to talk to you or ask questions, like I could see how what do they call it, resting bitch face. I could see how I might have that, and there's times like I felt like an asshole in this one. I was leaving a neighborhood, and we have a text messaging service. So if you are laid out or get missed and the truck's nearby, you can text in and generally get a response quick enough where I can come back. But if you chase me down with your personal vehicle and then pull up in front, and then you look at me wanting me to leave the cab to come to your car, it's like I don't do that.
Someone did that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
More than once. You'll see them tailing you in your rearview mirrors, and you're like, well, go around. You know, I know I'm slow.
Yeah.
I'm big and I'm slow, so I'll move over, you go around. And you just keep tipping. Then they go up and they, block you off, or they pull to the side. And they give you this look like it's my job to come to their window and fill their needs.
In like any typical day, if you're in a good mood, that like wouldn't be that bad.
No,
when you got like 800 cans to tip.
Yeah,
and like you're at your job, and like your job's gonna be longer if somebody stops you.
Yeah, and so I'll say nope, you can come to me. And it was a guy that got out with a cane, and I kind of felt like an a-hole because I was like, I would assume if you were quick enough to get out of your house, get in your vehicle, and then find me and pull me over, you're quick enough to get out of the truck or get out of your vehicle and come to my window. And this guy got out with the cane, so I felt kind of bad about that one, but I feel like it was understandable for me to have that misunderstanding.
So here's a garbage hack if you forget to set out your garbage. So side load, we go up one side of the street, and then we go down the other side. So if we go, and typically you hear the garbage truck is when you think to set out your garbage.
Yeah.
So half the people are fortunate that they hear us go up the other side of the street that they're not on, and then they can bring their cans out.
Right.
But the problem is if you're on the street, we go up first. On the side we go up first. Obviously, we've already passed your house.
Right.
So the hack to getting your can picked up is drag it to the other side of the street.
Yep.
Because we haven't ran that side yet. We're going to come back down that side of the street.
Yep.
So if you hear the garbage truck, he already went by your house, you missed it, and he hasn't picked up the other side of the street, just drag it across.
Yeah, and I'll notice those. Like when you get an extra can, because we use a tablet, so everything's usually marked. And if you see an extra can on your side of the street, you're like, well, that's weird. But you'll also see there's a red not out tab on your map for the house across the street. And it's like, oh, this guy figured it out.
Yep.
And I'll service that one every time.
Little hack for getting your garbage picked up.
Yeah, just a little tip. So, yeah. Well, we covered a lot of the weather stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what we wanted to hammer on. Well, what else is on the agenda? Do you have? I mean, that's everything I wanted to cover. Oh, well, or this one. The thing, and we're starting to get on the tail end of this, but even after the storm with all the snowpack, and all the snow drifts, there's still, I don't know what happened, but somehow people's cart placement behavior changed.
Yeah.
Instead of like getting it to the curb, they'll put it up by the sidewalk or up further up away from the street. Or my favorite is they're starting to stack carts. Instead of putting them side by side, they'll put them front to back. So you have to move one out of the way to get to the next one. And I am, for the most part, I accept like, okay, conditions have changed. But what I've done is I started like taking some carts and like just working them through the snow.
Yep. And
So-
then you set them on the snowbanks.
Yep.
And stuff. Yeah, same
So it's
thing.
like for next week, that's where that goes. We're not going to do this. This stacking thing, don't think because I tipped it once this week because they're stacked, this is going to be a thing. Like,
S-
we're not doing this.
So again, like little problems are big problems when you get 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Like cart placement, incorrectly placed carts. Typically, we
Mhm.
can like make a lot work
Yeah.
with bad placement.
Yeah.
When there's that much snow and like you're trying to get the truck to chug through, it, like slow down and chug just right up to
Yeah.
the spot you need to be to grab that can because it's backwards. You got to get your finger in behind the
Yeah.
lid because if you grab the lid, you're gonna bust the lid. Like,
And these are all adding like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Which seems trivial.
but any day when the truck's on like level hard surface,
Yeah.
it takes a lot for a good driver to do that. Well, when you put all that snowpack between you and that car,
Yeah.
everything gets more difficult.
And we ran into this yesterday because we called each other, and I think it was like getting close to 9. So it was only a few hours on route. We started about 5:30, maybe a few minutes early. So by 9 o'clock, you had said, I'm a half hour behind, like what your average is. I'm like, I'm a half hour behind too. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything stupid to kill time, but it's just like every intersection is narrower because all the drift piles kind of create this taper.
Yeah.
So your turns are taking longer, your acceleration, your stops are taking longer, and you're just inherently going slower because you're always on ice. So somehow I lost a half hour by 9 o'clock, and I was like, I don't know where it went. You can't calculate it.
But it's no different than if you're driving to Omaha on a sunny day, it
Yeah.
takes you, 70 minutes to get there. If
Yeah.
you drive there during a snowstorm, it's going to take you 120 minutes.
Right.
There's
And
nothing you can do.
and when every cart is placed a little awkward and adds 5, 10, 15 seconds to service, to that one individual, they'll
Yeah.
say, "Oh, what's 15 seconds? What's a big deal?" And it's like, okay, just for easy math, times everything by either 500 or 1,000. So if every stop takes an extra 5 or 10 seconds, just times that by 500 or 1,000.
Well, and the ideal thing would be if let's say we had trucks and staff like no tomorrow. When it snows like this, we know it's going to take longer, so we just shorten the routes. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
on a good sunny day, you can do 600 stops in 8 hours. You got snow, so really you're only going to be able to do 400 in that same amount of time.
Right.
So we'll give those 200 to this other driver that
Right.
magically appeared with this truck that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then you guys will all get done at the same time.
Yeah, it's
It's
like,
like, no, that's not how it works.
no, we just
You got to go run all those stops
yeah, it's
in the snow.
and that's one of those things where I've been conditioned to it where if I wake up to snow like that, it's just you tell or I tell my wife like, don't expect me home on regular time, okay?
Yeah.
Or my favorite is like I can usually get home a half hour or hour before my wife and kids get back from work and school. Like if I get home at 3:30, they're just around the corner, and that's my like whatever you want to do recreationally, like watch the show that you can't watch with kids around, because I like movies and
So your opportunity cost to getting home early is less time
Oh,
spent
dude.
with like your family and your wife.
yeah, well there's
So you have like a reason why you'd want to get your route done in like a
Yeah.
timely manner.
oh dude,
So you don't have time just to like get out and
yeah, or
draw
no,
and
I as
load extra.
as an introvert, here's the thing that's not quite understood, and there's probably other garbage out there because I think garbage attracts a lot of introverts, where it's like I don't want to work with people.
Yeah, you go get in a truck, you're by yourself.
Yeah, I just
nobody
want
tells you
that's what
to
I do. But as an introvert, when you get the house to yourself, it's like, oh man, this is my chill time.
My
like,
domicile.
yeah, because now I don't have to I'm not mentally focused on driving this truck through traffic and doing garbage or commuting home. I can actually just do whatever I want to do for a half hour. And sometimes that's take a nap, but now you're getting home at the same time as the wife and kids, and it's kind of chaos until dinner time, and this happened last night. I still kind of feel bad about this, and I attribute it just being tired. So I got a picky eater, my 10-year-old, and every once in a while I'll talk to him about mental toughness. And as garbage, you start to appreciate what mental toughness is. And he was picky about eating this chicken and rice, and he doesn't like the texture, doesn't like the taste, blah, 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 making a fuss, starting to cry, starting to whimper.
Do you have broccoli in it?
No, I don't think so. But he said, and I'm sitting over in my spot because I haven't napped. I've been up since like 3 o'clock, and it's like 6:30.
The car's pulling up, blocking your truck. They're like, "Come here, hey, come here."
So when I'm tired, and this is true with everybody, if you're tired, I'm just in a bad mood. But I'm sitting there next to him, and it's my wife and him going back and forth, doing this little battle.
Mm-hmm.
And what does he say? He says something like, and maybe I'll bleep some of this because he says something like, "I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. Just get out of dinner." I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, you're going to use "I'm tired." And like, you're going to say that in front of me. And I was like, this is fucking disgusting. And I got up and left the table. I was so pissed. I was so mad. Because, like, it's like, dude, like, and I looked at because my other kid started fussing about not wanting to finish his dinner, but wanting to have dessert. And I was like, did we ask too much from you guys? Did we ask too much? When you went to school, was that just too much to ask? And when you came home to play Minecraft and watch SpongeBob or watch Captain Underpants, I was like, oh, is this just too hard of a life for you? Granted, like, I was browsing like X or Twitter, and I'm seeing like there's graphic videos of like what's happening in battle zones, and you're seeing like kids blown apart, and it's traumatizing. And I'm like, oh, these kids are saying it's hard because they're in a heated house eating home cooked meals. I'm like, it's just too hard. I did not handle it well. My wife even said, "You're not helping." And I'm like, okay, I'll leave. So
yeah, I'd say these past 2 weeks I just check out. I do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But when I get home, I'm just kind of like, you know what? This is like a time and a period where
yeah,
it sucks.
yeah,
And like everybody has this, every job has
Yeah.
this. Like this
Yeah.
is not unique to anyone or any circumstance.
no.
So all you do is you just like turn it off.
No, but my I always bring up, he and I can overlap and relate a lot because he would have those moments, but he was dealing with like alcoholism on top of it. So he'd be coming home from work and getting a little tipsy and dealing with additional family stress. And it's like he had moments where he'd tell me where I'm like, dude, you did not handle that well. He's like, no, I did not. So he's gotten better. Like he's sobered up. But I know there's other guys like I've seen online in trash discussion forums that have dealt with the same thing where it's like you just get, even if you're not physically tired, you're going to be mentally exhausted. And then to come home and just have people demand more from you, and it's like, dude, I've already given like everything I've got.
Well, that goes back to me like finding people that can do this job. I mean,
Yeah.
I do this, and like I obviously don't have a family, so I don't have like a humongous commitment
Right.
relative to like my occupation.
Sure.
And that's me like looking at what we have, looking at what we're paying, and it's like, can you really expect somebody to do this job?
Yeah.
And I would say in my early years, that's something that took me a little bit to figure out, but I did figure out. It's like if I'm not going to leverage, technology and, the modern way of accumulating residential commercial trash, so that way you can like pay employees a livable wage to like support a family and be like a normal member of society.
Yeah. And
then I don't think I should be surprised when nobody wants to work.
no, and you should be like, I should acknowledge, maybe I haven't done this in the past, but I should acknowledge, like, even if you don't have a wife and kids, you're at least aware of their weight on people's tolerances for like just day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, the one thing that you've never said, and it's a pet peeve because other people say it, is the whole, oh, just leave home life at home. Just leave home at home. Or work, just leave it all at home. Just when you show up to work, just leave all that at the door. I was like, are you dumb? Like, how has human beings ever compartmentalized that way? Like, and I've never had to deal with this, but other people have had, where if their wife is threatening divorce, it's like, hey, let's put that guy in a 35,000-pound vehicle, 70 miles per hour, where he's just fuming with rage behind the wheel about the wife that's threatening divorce or wants to leave the state with their kid. It's like, let's put that guy out on the road. Why don't you just leave home at home and just leave it at the door? It's like, dude, no. Humans are not that way, and it's completely unreasonable to ask that.
And that's like an ecosystem I wouldn't want to be a part of.
No.
And maybe that's why we aren't, the largest trash provider in eastern Nebraska. I mean,
Yeah, and that's.
but I would never
yeah.
sacrifice growth at, to me, you wouldn't even want that. Like, you would
No.
not want that.
No.
So if 5Xing your company meant that you were going to have guys on your staff like that, I'd rather just keep the smaller company that I have.
And well, I wonder. And so I'm called millennial, which is not Gen X, Gen Z, and so you'd be on the. I think you're on the tail end of millennial, into whatever the next one is. It doesn't matter, but the younger generations are starting to recognize a healthier, mental health, or healthier mental health at home or outside of work.
Well, we all read 80/20.
Well, you read 80/20. Maybe I lived it and I never read it. You what's 80/20? I mean, I understand splitting things 80/20 or something.
I mean, it's not just 80/20. There's different kind of people that summarize it, but
yeah.
You want to minimize, if you can get close to the same output with a lot less work.
Yeah.
We're going to opt for the lot less work.
Okay.
Whereas some people are we want to maximize maximize what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And that last 20%, we're going to do 50% to get there.
Yeah, and
it's no.
You stop at diminishing returns.
We stop at diminishing returns.
Yeah. And there's I feel like I've had those experiences doing hay. Hay is tricky because I only get one window of opportunity to experience it and then spend the rest of the year reflecting.
Kind of like snow.
Yeah. Like hay, it's hard to grow a hay business when it's just a couple months out of the year. But there's definitely moments, this is what it is. There will be times where we'll be in a field and I'll tell my dad, don't square bale that. I was like, we'll just have someone custom round bale it because it's oblong or it's odd shaped. It's weird to get into. A round baler can spin around and get in and out of there, and you got 4 bales to move.
Right.
If you go in there with a square baler, you're going to drop 200 bales that a bale wagon needs straight lines to pick up. And now I'm spinning circles trying to get this machine designed for straight lines to do curves and pick stuff up. And now I'm getting out of the tractor to do it by hand. I was like, don't do that. And then I'll show up in the field and there'll be 200 bales out in this corner. I was like, God damn it. I was like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. Diminishing returns. Because if we pull 1,000 bales off of the field, the first 800 will go within a couple hours. Just boom, boom, boom. And then I'll spend as much time on that 200 as I did for the 800. And it's that's your 80/20. 800 to 200. They're perfect. See, I learned.
Yep.
Nice. Well, we're going to be pushing close to an hour. Do we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think it's an hour.
Pretty good.
We had a gap where the
summary of the weather and
the weather.
A little reflection onto where we were and where we got.
Yeah. That. I mean, we didn't podcast for a few weeks, but the last 2 has definitely been some content-worthy stuff.
This is when you figure out how big your staff is too.
Yeah.
The bigger companies.
Oh yeah.
You're never fully staffed when the weather gets bad. That's when you figure out who the staff is that you have, and the people that aren't there are the ones that are not going to.
Yeah, and it's where you really start to appreciate going to automated because those machines, when they can show up to work, they can maybe get damaged, and you can fix them a lot easier than you can fix human beings.
If you are a rear loader that's thinking about side loading, you've got to watch, and we'll have videos of this. You got to watch our side loaders go down alleys.
Yeah,
in side load alleys.
Yeah,
alleys are by far the worst thing to rear load.
Yeah,
by far, hands down. Streets get cleared, alleys don't get cleared well.
Yeah.
If you've rear loaded in alleys, you'll watch a side loader rip cans.
I know.
Around and just be like, wow.
I know you could go on YouTube right now to our A Sanitation channel and see our truck picking up in the snowstorm and a little bit after the storm, the long form stuff. That's on YouTube. But there'll be more on YouTube and Facebook of like the alleys and just general aftermath.
Yep.
You know, and then you'll understand like, oh, okay. Like when they say snow, they mean like that's a lot. That's a lot of snow. So, yeah, I'll never apologize for, um, like they'll say, oh, that machine took these jobs, you know, or took. I was like, no, it just eliminated bad jobs. Because if around here, if people are paying $18 an hour, no benefits to ride back the truck, and to look, that's not a job that helps your community.
That's a company exploiting low
Yeah.
wage,
Yeah. Yeah.
low wage labor, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's plenty of those jobs around, and like if you want your community to thrive, higher paying jobs does it.
Yep.
We've had that discussion before, and that's why I
If you want your company to thrive,
Yeah.
invest in higher paying jobs. I
Yeah.
mean, that's at the crux of your company itself.
yeah
Do you want to be a low wage employer? Or
yeah.
do you want to be a high wage employer? If you're a high wage employer, you're just going to solve a lot of your problems.
Actually, we should wrap up because you got a
Yeah.
appointment. Oh, I just noticed that. All right, well, you get that. All right, cool. That was this podcast is garbage, and we're done.